Ah, there you are, spinning big swig roller. You were gone yesterday. And we also got these two. Why didn't they just put one of them yesterday alongside the table turf stuff? I don't know, but thank God we already knew one of these kits so I could talk about them. And yeah, what I thought we would be getting with these kits is what we got. This does have sensor, and this does have jump. Let's go, we were right. Only downside is there's no new crab weapon. Wow, no new crab weapon, and no new stringer. We could have gotten one more weapon to make 10 alt kits, and it could have been the reflux with the crab tank, and then they could have probably given it a competent sub. You know. No new crab weapons is a shame when it's like one of, if not the healthiest specials in the game. But whatever. Anyway, we got the heavy splatling deco. So, yeah, this is point sensor Kraken. Let's talk about it because right now, heavy's in a pretty damn good spot. This is kind of just your standard backline weapon. You know, it's fallen off a little bit mainly because ballpoint is, you know, the best weapon in the game. They play a similar role. But, I mean, if the inkjet output and inkjet itself is toned back a little bit, which will probably happen, I think it's going to be more than fine. It's already good as is, and I mean, it just kind of does whatever, you know? It's fine at defending itself. It paints pretty well and at a pretty safe distance. It works with pretty much any team comp. And its DPS is solid. Sprinkler is fine with it. You know, long-range splatlings especially are some of the least picky weapons about subs, and deployables are nice when you have a weapon that has to charge and fire everywhere, so you can kind of just leave it to help get your special. And it's got a wave breaker, which, you know, is a great special. It can work as an entry tool, especially with this thing due to the range it has, and it makes heavy a two-shot. You know, just all around, really strong and solid combo. The new kit is... It's a good reference kit. It was a very fun Splatoon 1 kit. I think casually this will be a very, very fun backline weapon, honestly. Like, Sensor Kraken is a very nice combo. Sensor is another thing that's fine. You know, if you don't have anyone to shoot at, if you have a bit of ink tank, you just kind of throw it and then you charge and do your thing, and it helps your teammates a bit. It plays more into that supportive backline type thing. And it works well with Kraken, because, you know, you locate people and then you go pop the Kraken and you go chase them, and it's, you know, easier to hunt them down and try to kill them. But I have been talking like, it's fun casually. So, competitively, here's the thing. I don't even think this is a bad kit competitively. But the main thing Sensor is useful on Heavy is aggressive positioning. You know, like you can position closer to people and then convert into offense with the Kraken, you know? It's like you can position really far up and then you can turn into a Kraken, you can go kill people and then like get out of there and keep being a heavy spotling. And like that's pretty cool and all. Like that's really fun. So you know, here's the catch though. So, if you wanted to be really, you know, turn up more aggressively, what if you just... And then you also have a heavy still active, and the wave breaker supports the rest of your team. And you can still be aggressive. Now, yes, I know it's different. That's a bit of an unfair comparison. Like, yeah, the Kraken's much better as a panic button. You don't need to have a charge, so it's like a bit faster. And, you know, it's more individualistic. You don't really need your team with you, whereas this one wants its team. But, like, competitive-wise, I'm struggling to see reasons why you would pick the other heavy kit. Like, maybe if it was a meta with specials that were, like, better at dealing with wave, kind of like Inkjet is, and you kind of just need to stay alive, maybe, but then you would pick Ballpoint. I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be a thing for Clan Blitz, having that, you know, I can just crack and cheese to the basket to give super jumps in overtime factor is nice. And, like, maybe tower control could also be useful, but also wave is already really good on tower, because it kind of blocks for tower and it moves with it, so it's able to affect more areas. It just, I don't know. I think it's a good kit. Like, it's a really good kit. But if I'm gonna rank it, it's like, well, I don't know where exactly I see people using this. For now, I would say I have the benefit of the doubt, and heavy players will probably have, like, a few places they want to use it on. But for the most part, I feel like this is the heavy you're gonna pick. I think a kit that is a bit more get your team in would have helped, but I mean, part of it is just the vanilla kit is so versatile. And if the heavy remix, assuming we get third kits for every weapon, come on Nintendo, you gotta do it, is like a Splash Wall and a Booyah Bomb, or Splash Wall Killer Whale, you know, or some kind of thing like that, and that ends up being an entry tool, then we'll have a very aggressive one, a middle ground one, and a defensive one all in one. and you'd have 3 viable heavy kits, which would be awesome. So, you know, if they want to make one that leans more into aggression, it's got a well-rounded one, I think that's fine. I'm pretty happy with this kit. Cool. Next weapon. Dually Squelcher. This weapon has been in a bit of an interesting state. When the game came out, people thought very highly of this weapon, including myself, and I do still think pretty highly of it, but it's very clear that it's not all it's made out to be. So why is that? Dually Squelcher does have very good mobility and mid-range pressure, and, you know, beacon on it is fine, right? Like, this is a mid-range weapon, and it's got mobility, so in theory, a beacon should work fine for it because it doesn't really struggle to get in, and it can very easily get its special even when it's locked down. On top of that, the special it has is Super Chump, and Super Chump is a, like, solid entry special by design, you know? Like, you pop it, and you go forward, and you take an area, you know? So, like, you can pop Chump, and it's very explicit, you know, walk forward, or roll forward in this case. You can quickly refill your ink tank, use these as mini shields, and then the explosions can combo with your damage for kills. It's cool. Like, it's a very nice combination. And this kit felt very thought out. Like, I'm seeing a lot of patterns here. I'm seeing reference a bit of Splatoon 1 Dual Squelcher with the beacon because we're addicted to referencing previous kits, mostly for the better, but sometimes not for the better. I'm thinking, okay, beacon could be really nice for a dually because it's got dodge rolls. Super Chump is really nice for this to go in, and then also, you know, this could enable, like, Squelcher plus Dually or Squelcher plus Tetra, combinations we know from Splatoon 2. You know, like, this kit's very good at working with the second Dually. This is a kit that works very well as, like, being one of a 2 Dually pair. And that's really great. Like, that seems to be the thought process. And I think this kit, honestly, really does work for that. I think it makes running, like, double Dually comps a lot easier. There are a few problems, though, unfortunately. The main thing is Dually Squelcher's damage right now is kind of inconsistent and kind of weak. Sometimes his kill time is fine. Most of the time, it's pretty whatever. Main power-up did make this a lot more consistent, and without main power-up, it's kind of struggled. I think its RNG is a little much sometimes, as well as it only doing 28 instead of 30 damage can be felt. So sometimes it can struggle versus HP specials, sometimes in fights they just drag out a really long time, especially if you're using a lot of your rolls. And the ink efficiency is low, so even the kit that has a bomb kind of struggles to use it. And Squelcher is something that kind of wants to play different gear, mainly quick respawn. Another factor is, of course, the maps. It's harder to use your rolls and get in on side angles because the maps are hallways. So it's a bit more difficult to use the fact that you're a Dually Squelcher to your advantage than it was in Splatoon 2. So here's what I think needs to happen. The obvious one out of the way is Chump needs to get buffed. These things are just kind of whatever right now. They're kind of better in zones and turf because the paint output they provide, especially on a zone, is harder to ignore by comparison, but for the most part, the Chumps are way too weak. So Chump needs to be buffed. But if Chump's a good special, it fits this thing well. What I think needs to happen besides Chumps being buffed is a little bit of a reliability buff. Thank you, Nintendo. I love that the maps and modes have been updated. You definitely need to take me out of the training room. Anyway, you know, a little bit better DPS, like a little bit more reliable kill time. Like you could do an accuracy buff. You could do a slight ink efficiency buff on the dodge rolls. So like you can kind of stall a little bit longer without running out of your ink tank. Like anything like that. Maybe 30 damage instead of 28. Some stuff like that. And that would also help the vanilla kit. And the vanilla kit, like with the heavy, has a different use. This is much more of an all-rounder type kit. Like Wave can get you in, but it can also hold an area. It's good for comboing with your damage since it makes you a 2-shot. Again, same reason as Heavy, and Spot Bomb is your all-rounder sub. So I'd say the custom Dually Squelcher is definitely much more of a... It's still aggressive, because it's still a Dually Squelcher. You can't really play this weapon passively with how ink-hungry it is and, like, mediocre the damage is. But it is much more of a, I want to be the buddy of another really aggressive weapon, rather than, like, being, you know, like a Tetra, you know? Like, I want to help a Tetra, so my kit helps, you know? I can get in with my beacons, but also this person can. And we can double dive with the Chumps, and it's very fun. This looks like one of the most fun kits in the game. If they balance it well, it can enable Squelcher Tetra. Tetra Dually is already a thing, and Dually plus Squelcher could also be a thing if they buff Chump. And all of that seems really cool. So, double Dually comps are very interesting and has a lot of self-synergy. I hope this can be a way to enabling it. As of right now, though, if Chumps don't get buffed, I think this will just be a mid-tier weapon, And considering this is one of the hardest weapons in the game at a competitive level, like at higher levels, this is an incredibly difficult weapon to be consistent with. You know, it has the range blaster or E-liter or like tri-stringer issue right now of, yeah, it can work well enough to win, but is it worth the effort? And, you know, for some of those weapons, that's fair. You know, like, tri-stringer, you might want to be careful just how good you make it, because it could be something that could be problematic for the game. But this is really not the weapon that should be held back by potential. This is such a high skill floor and skill ceiling weapon, it really should be better. So I hope they just give it a little bit of buffs. The main thing is definitely Chump, though. If Chump was really good and you run a comp around it, I think even without buffs, this could totally be fine. But, like, give it a little bit of something extra. Like, 1% less ink cost on a dodge roll, or 30 damage, or slightly less jump RNG, you know, just give it a little something to help it out, Nintendo. The Dually Squatcher players deserve it. But yeah, all things considered, it's pretty incredible how, despite no actual bombs, quite a lot of the kits this season ended up being pretty fine. I think it started on a rather negative note, mainly because we started with 92 Blast, which is definitely the worst sub and special that has been added to a weapon in this season, but, you know, I think it was pretty solid. Let me know what you think about the weapons. Bye.